The boy pulled the trigger. The bullet hit the snow 2 feet from Silas Harding's boot. The kick threw the child backward into a drift, and the pistol flew from his hands, and the boy scrambled for it on his knees, crying and cursing, and reaching for the gun because the man on the horse was big, and men who were big always hurt you. Behind him, a little girl stood over her mother's body in the blood-stained snow, holding a rag doll against her chest, whispering, "Stop crying, Tommy. Mama said cowboys don't cry. Mama said—" But Mama was not saying anything. Mama was not moving at all. Before we begin this story, I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel and follow along until the very end. Drop a comment and tell me what city you are watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. Now, let us begin. The second bullet was still in the chamber, and Tommy Whitmore knew it. He got his fingers around the pistol grip, swung it up, and this time he planted his feet the way he had seen men do it. Legs apart, both hands, arms locked. He was 9 years old, and he had never fired a gun before 60 seconds ago. And his ears were ringing, and his wrists were screaming, but none of that mattered because the man on the horse was still coming. "I got one more," Tommy said, "and I won't miss." Silas Harding stopped his horse. He did not reach for his rifle. He did not raise his hands. He sat still in the saddle and looked at the boy, and then past the boy to the woman lying face down in the red snow, and then to the little girl standing beside the woman, holding a rag doll and talking to it. "Penny, make Mama wake up. You gotta make her wake up, Penny, please." Silas looked back at the boy. "Son, I ain't your son. My daddy calls me son, and he can go to hell, and so can you." "Fair enough. What do I call you?" "You don't call me nothing. You turn that horse around, and you ride away." "Can't do that." "I will shoot you." "You might. Your mama teach you to shoot?" "Nobody taught me nothing. I figured it out." "I can tell. You are gripping too tight. Your right hand is going to cramp, and you will drop it before you get the shot off." Tommy adjusted his grip without thinking about it. Then he got mad at himself for listening. "Shut up." "And you are standing too square. Turn your body sideways. Gives them less to hit if they shoot back." "Are you going to shoot back?" "No." "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because a boy who stands over his mama with a gun in a blizzard deserves to know how to hold it right." Tommy's chin trembled. He bit down on it. Hard. He was not going to cry. He had made a promise to himself when they left the house 3 weeks ago. No crying. Crying was something Lucy did, and Lucy was 5, and that was allowed. He was the man now. Men did not cry. His daddy cried when he drank, and then he hit Mama, and Tommy swore he would never be like that. Never. "She's dying," Tommy whispered. "Ain't she?" Silas looked at the woman. The blood had spread wide under her, melting the snow in a circle that was already freezing over at the edges. Her coat was soaked through. One hand was stretched out toward the children, like she had been reaching for them when she fell. "She might be," Silas said. "How long has she been down?" "I don't know. An hour, maybe 2. I tried to carry her, but she's too heavy, and I had Lucy on my back, and the snow kept—" Tommy's voice broke. He caught it, pulled it back. "I couldn't carry both of them." Nobody could. Not a grown man. Not in this. "I should have been stronger." "You are the strongest 9-year-old I have ever seen, and I have seen a few." Lucy tugged on Tommy's coat sleeve. Her lips were blue. Her fingers were white. Frostbite coming, Silas noted. Maybe an hour before it set in for good.
"Tommy, Penny is cold, and Mama is cold, and I'm cold. Can the horseman help us?"
He ain't helping nobody, Lucy.
But Penny says,
Penny is a sock doll. She don't say nothin'. Lucy's face crumpled. She looked down at Penny, then back at her brother, and her eyes filled with the kind of hurt that only comes when the one person you trust says something cruel. Tommy saw it. The look on his sister's face hit him harder than a bullet. I'm sorry, Lucy Bug. I didn't mean it. Penny's real. Penny's smart. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Lucy wiped her nose with the back of her hand.
Penny forgives you. She knows you're scared.
I ain't scared.
It's okay to be scared. Mama says...
Lucy stopped, looked down at her mother.
Mama said brave people get scared. That's how you know you're brave. Because you do it anyway.
The wind picked up, snow driving sideways now. Silas could feel the temperature dropping. This was not a storm. This was the leading edge of something worse.
The sky to the west had gone black. An hour, maybe less, and the full blizzard would hit.
Listen to me, Silas said. Both of you. I was a medic in the war. I have sewn men back together who were worse off than your mama. My cabin is that direction, quarter-mile, and there is a fire going and food on the stove and a dog who ain't bit nobody in 11 years. But we have got to move now. That storm hits and we all die out here. Your mama, your sister, you, me, all of us. Tommy looked at the sky, looked at his mother, looked at Lucy's blue lips. The math was simple and terrible. Trust the stranger or watch his family freeze.
If you touch her wrong, I'll kill you in your sleep.
I would expect nothing less.
And I want my gun back after.
You have my word.
Words don't mean nothing.
Mine do.
Tommy lowered the pistol.
His whole body started shaking. The adrenaline going out, the cold rushing in to fill the space. He looked like what he was, a child, standing in the snow,
holding a gun that was too heavy, trying to save a family that should not have been his to save.
Silas dismounted, covered Clara with his coat. The cold hit him through his shirt, and he clenched his jaw to keep his teeth from chattering. He checked her wound. Bullet entry on the left side, above the hip, through and through. Bleeding steady, but slow. The cold had done what cold does, slowed things down, bought time. Help me lift her, Silas said to Tommy. Together they got Clara across the horse. She moaned, but did not wake. Silas steadied her with one hand and took the reins with the other. They started walking. Lucy fell in beside him. She reached up and grabbed hold of his belt because her hands were too small and too frozen to hold the stirrup.
Your dog, Lucy said. What's his name?
Boone.
Is he nice?
Nicest soul I know.
Does he like little girls?
I believe he does.
Good. Penny needs a friend who's not a person. Persons are tricky.
Penny is right about that. Tommy walked behind them. He had picked the pistol back up, carried it at his side, pointed at the ground, watching the trees, watching the trail, watching everything, the way a child watches when he has learned that danger does not announce itself. They reached the cabin as the light died. The storm was close. Silas could smell it. The air had that metal taste that comes before heavy snow, the taste of a world about to shut down. Boone met them at the door. The old hound stood up from his spot by the fire, ears forward, nose working. He looked at Silas, looked at the strangers, padded over to Tommy first, sniffed his hand. Tommy flinched. Boone licked his fingers, slow, gentle, the way old dogs do when they recognize pain in something young. Tommy's hand opened. He touched Boone's head, did not pull away. Then Boone went to Lucy. She dropped to her knees and buried her face in his neck.
Oh, she said, oh, you're warm. Penny, feel him. He's so warm.
Boone's tail moved once, twice. He looked at Silas with those ancient eyes. New people, the dog seemed to say. Finally. Silas carried Clara to the bed. He laid her down and his hands stopped, just for a breath. His fingers resting on the quilt Emmeline had sewn. The bed where Emmeline had died. 5 years and the pillow still smelled like her if he pressed his face into it at night, which he did sometimes when the loneliness got so bad it became a sound. He pushed that down. There was work to do. Medical kit from under the bed. Hot water from the kettle. He had to break ice on the water bucket first. Tommy watched him do it. "You live alone?" Tommy asked. "Yes." "Why?" "Ran out of people." "What happened to them?" "Same thing that happens to everybody. Life." Silas peeled back Clara's dress. The wound was ugly, but survivable. He poured whiskey into it. Clara's body arched off the bed. Her eyes shot open. Her hand found the knife on the bedside table before Silas even saw her reach for it. She had the blade against his throat in half a second, faster than any man he had faced in the war. "Who are you?" Clara's voice was low, controlled. No panic. This was a woman who had been attacked before. A woman who woke up fighting because waking up soft got you killed.
"Mama, no!"
Tommy grabbed her arm.
"He's helping. He's fixing you."
Clara's eyes moved. Found Tommy. Found Lucy on the floor with Boone. Found the cabin. The fire. The medical supplies. The man with the kind face and the scar on his jaw, and her knife at his throat. She did not lower the blade. "Where am I?" "My cabin. My name is Silas Harding. Your children are safe. Nobody is going to hurt you here."
"Men always say that."
"I reckon they do, and I reckon you have good reason not to believe it. But your boy let me bring you here, and your girl is currently telling my dog about her rag doll's feelings. So maybe, just for tonight, you could not cut my throat until after I finish stitching your side." Something shifted in Clara's face. Not trust, but the knife moved a 1/4 inch from his skin. "Tommy, you let this man carry me?" "You were dying, Mama. The snow was coming and your blood was everywhere, and Lucy was turning blue, and I didn't know what else to do. I'm sorry. I tried to carry you. I tried." The knife lowered. Clara's other hand found her son's face. She cupped his cheek. Her eyes went soft in a way that broke the room open. "You did right, baby. You did right." "I shot at him first." "Good." Silas almost laughed. Almost. He threaded a needle instead. "This is going to hurt," he said. "I have had worse." She was not bragging. She said it the way people say things that are simply true and terrible. Silas looked at her hands while he worked. Calluses, old bruises on her wrists, yellow-green, fading. A scar on her forearm, thin, deliberate. The mark of a blade held by someone who wanted to scare, not kill. He said nothing about any of it. Some truths did not need to be spoken. They sat in the room like furniture. You saw them. You worked around them. Clara did not make a sound while he stitched. Her jaw locked. Her fists gripped the quilt. Tommy held her hand. Lucy came over and put Penny on Clara's chest. "Penny makes everything better," Lucy said. "She's medicine." "Thank you, Lucy Bug."
"Mama, Boone is the best dog. He let me use him as a pillow. His belly is really warm. And Silas says he's never bit nobody."
Clara looked at Silas over her daughter's head, measuring, calculating. The eyes of a woman who had learned to read men the way hunters read tracks, looking for where the danger hid. Why? Clara asked. Silas tied off the stitch, cut the thread. Why what? Why help us? You don't know us. Silas put down the needle. He reached under the bed for a clean bandage, and his hand brushed the pocket watch. Emmeline's. He did not pick it up, did not open it, but his finger stayed on it for a heartbeat too long, and Clara saw it. She saw everything. My wife died in this bed, Silas said, 5 years back, giving birth to a baby that died with her. I buried them both on the hill behind the barn, and I've been living like a dead man ever since, going through the motions, waiting for the cold to take me, or the boredom, or the whiskey, or whatever gets to me first. He wrapped the bandage tight around Clara's midsection, his hands steady. Then your boy shot at me, and your girl asked my dog's name. And here we are. That is not a reason. No, ma'am, it is not. I don't have a reason. I just couldn't ride past. Clara studied him. Long. Hard. Then she lay back against the pillow and closed her eyes. His name is Judge Ephraim Cotter, she said. He owns Copper Bluff, the mine, the sheriff, the general store, the church, all of it. My husband Virgil worked for him. Virgil found out Cotter was stealing gold from his own mine, skimming the yields, cooking the books. Millions. What did your husband do? What Cotter told him to do. Virgil was scared. Then Virgil got hurt in the mine, his back, and the pain made him mean, and the whiskey made him meaner. And one night I heard them talking, Virgil and Cotter. They were going to collapse the mine, on purpose. Kill the night shift to destroy the evidence. 14 men. Jesus. I took Virgil's ledger, everything. Names, dates, amounts. Proof that could hang Cotter and every man who helped him. And I ran. 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Through the bighorns. Through snow up past my chest. Tommy carried Lucy for 2 days when I couldn't walk from the bleeding. My boy carried his sister on his back through a mountain pass in December. Her voice was steady, no tears. She had used up her tears somewhere on the mountain. Cotter sent men after you. 3 of them. They caught us at the creek crossing yesterday. Shot me. I shot one of them back. The other 2 are still out there. How close? Close enough. Tommy had gone to the window. He was looking out at the snow, the pistol back in his hand. Mama, he said, there are lights through the trees. Silas moved to the window, looked out. 2 points of light, lanterns, moving slow through the storm, maybe a half-mile out. They tracked us, Clara said. She was already trying to sit up, teeth gritted, hand pressed to her wound. We have to go. You cannot ride. Then give me a rifle and I will shoot from the porch. Mama, no! Tommy's voice cracked. He was shaking, the gun trembling in his hands. Mama, please! Lucy had gone quiet. She held Penny against her face, breathing into the doll, making herself small in the corner by the fire. Boone stood in front of her, facing the door, the old dog's body stiff, a low growl building in his chest. He could smell what was coming. Silas pulled a rifle from the wall, loaded it, pulled a second rifle, loaded that. Can you shoot? He asked Clara. I killed a man yesterday. That answers my question. He handed her the rifle. Their fingers touched on the stock. Clara looked at him. You do this, they will come for you too. Cotter does not leave witnesses. Then he should not have sent them to my land. You don't owe us anything. No, ma'am, I don't. Then why? Silas chambered around. Because I buried my wife alone, and I will not watch another woman die if I can stop it. Clara held his eyes. Something passed between them. Not romance, not yet. Just recognition. Two people who had lost everything, looking at each other across a room full of rifles and children, and a dog that was growling at the dark. "Tommy," Silas said, "take your sister up to the loft. There's a trap door in the floor. Get under it. Do not come out until I say. I want to fight." "You will, but not tonight. Tonight your job is Lucy. Keep her warm. Keep her quiet. Can you do that?" Tommy wanted to argue. Silas could see it. The boy's whole body fighting between the need to protect and the need to be protected. 9 years old, carrying a world that was too heavy.
"Please, Tommy," Clara said softly. "Please, baby, take your sister."
Tommy picked up Lucy. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Penny squashed between them. Boone followed them to the loft ladder.
"Mr. Silas,"
Lucy said from her brother's arms. "Yes, Lucy?"
"Don't let the bad men hurt Mama. Penny says you promised."
"I didn't promise."
"Yes, you did. Penny heard it. She hears everything."
Tommy carried Lucy up the ladder. The trapdoor closed. Silas heard them settling above. A boy whispering to his sister. A girl whispering to her doll. A dog pressing his warm body against two cold children. Clara stood from the bed, swayed, caught herself on the wall. Blood was already seeping through the bandage. "You should stay down," Silas said. "I have been down for 3 weeks. I am done being down." She moved to the window, checked the rifle, positioned herself. Her movements were precise despite the pain. A woman who had learned to function while broken, because breaking down was not something mothers were allowed to do. "Silas?" "Yeah?" "If something happens to me, if I don't, nothing is going to happen to you. If it does, the ledger is in my coat, inside the lining. Tommy knows. Get it to the territorial marshal in Helena, not Copper Bluff, not anyone near Cotter. Helena. You can take it yourself. Promise me." Silas looked at her, pale, bleeding, standing at his window with a rifle and a mother's fury in her eyes. "I promise." "And my children?" "What about them?" "If I die tonight, they are yours. Do you understand? I am giving them to you, not the state, not the church, not Virgil. You."
"Clara, promise me."
The lanterns outside were closer now. 200 yards, 150. Silas could hear the horses, voices carrying on the wind, men calling to each other. "I promise," Silas said. Clara nodded, turned back to the window, braced the rifle against her good shoulder.
"Then let them come."
Silas moved to the door, opened it. The cold hit him like a wall, snow driving into his face. He could see the riders now, 2 shapes in the white, coming straight for the cabin. Above him, in the loft, Lucy whispered to Penny,
"It's okay. Don't be scared. Tommy's here. And the cowboy. The cowboy won't let the bad men in."
Tommy held his sister tighter and said nothing, because he had used up all his words and all his bravery, and all he had left was his body between Lucy and whatever came through that door. And Silas Harding stepped onto his porch, with a rifle in his hands, and the sound of children breathing above him and a bleeding woman at his back. And he thought about Emmeline and the baby he never held, and the 5 years of silence. And he thought, this is what you were waiting for. This is why you kept waking up every morning when you had no reason to. This, right here, right now. The riders broke through the tree line. Silas raised his rifle. The first rider came fast, too fast for the snow. His horse stumbled, and the man cursed, and Silas put a bullet into the ground 3 feet in front of the animal. The horse reared. The rider grabbed the saddle horn and fought for control. "Next one goes through you,"
Silas called. The second rider pulled up short. Both men sat their horses in the driving snow, 50 yards from the porch. Close enough to see, too far to shoot clean in a blizzard. They knew it. Silas knew it. "We ain't here for you," the first rider shouted.
His voice was rough, tired. The voice of a man who had been riding through a storm for hours and was losing patience. "We're looking for a woman. Runaway wife. Her husband wants her home." "No woman here." "That's so. Because we followed blood trails straight to your door. Lot of things bleed in Wyoming. Elk, deer, could be anything." The second rider moved his horse sideways, trying to get an angle on the cabin. Silas tracked him with the rifle. "Stay where I can see you," Silas said. "Mister, you don't want this trouble. Just send the woman out and we ride away. Nobody gets hurt." "Nobody is getting hurt regardless, because you are on my property. And in about 30 seconds, you are going to turn those horses around and ride back to whatever hole you crawled out of." The first rider laughed. It was not a good laugh. "You know who sent us?" "I know. And I don't care. Judge Cotter owns half this territory." "You think a fence and a rifle are going to stop what's coming? I think you are sitting on a horse in a blizzard, talking to a man who is warm and dry and has a clear shot at your chest. I think your fingers are numb, and your horse is tired, and you have been riding all day, and I have been standing still. So I think the math is not in your favor." Silence. The snow fell between them like a curtain. From inside the cabin, Clara's voice, low, steady, meant only for Silas. "The one on the left is done. He shot me at the creek. The other is Mercer. He's the more dangerous one. He doesn't talk much." Silas kept his eyes on the riders. "Which one did you shoot?" "Third man. Name was Polk. He won't be riding anywhere." "Good." Dunn leaned forward in his saddle. "Last chance, mister. Send the woman and her brats out, or we come back with more men. And next time, we won't be talking first. You come back to my land again, you won't be talking at all." Mercer moved, fast. His hand went for his rifle. Silas fired. The bullet hit Mercer's saddle horn and ricocheted into the dark. Mercer's horse bolted sideways. Clara fired from the window. Her shot took Dunn's hat clean off his head. The man ducked so hard he nearly fell from his horse. "That was your hat," Clara called out. "Next one is lower." Both men pulled their horses back. Dunn was touching his bare head like he could not believe it. Mercer had gotten his horse under control, but his hands were up now, empty, the rifle still in the scabbard. "You're making a mistake," Dunn shouted. "Cotter will burn this place to the ground." "He can try." "He will kill you, both of you, and those kids in there too. You think he cares about children?" Something cold moved through Silas. Not fear. Something older and harder. The thing that happens to a man when you threaten the people behind him. "Ride away," Silas said. His voice had changed. Quiet now. The kind of quiet that soldiers recognized. The quiet before someone did something that could not be undone. "Right away, right now, and tell Judge Cotter that if he sends one more man to my land, I will come to Copper Bluff, and I will find him. And what I do to him will make him wish he had stayed in whatever gutter he came from." Dunn opened his mouth. Mercer grabbed his arm, shook his head once. The smart one. The one who knew when a man was not bluffing. They turned their horses, rode into the storm. The sound of hooves faded into the wind until there was nothing but snow and silence. Silas stood on the porch for 10 more minutes, watching, listening, making sure they were gone. Then he went inside and closed the door, and his hands started shaking. He held them out in front of him and watched them tremble, and he thought about how steady they had been when it mattered, and how they always fell apart after.
Clara was leaning against the wall by the window, the rifle resting on the sill. Her face was white, fresh blood on the bandage. "You tore your stitches," Silas said. "It was worth it. Did you see his face when I shot his hat off?" "You were aiming for his hat?" "I was aiming for his hat. From 30 yards, in a blizzard, through a window. My daddy was a Missouri squirrel hunter. He taught me before he taught me to read." Silas looked at her, pale, bleeding, half dead on her feet, and smiling like she had just won a county fair shooting contest. Something turned over in his chest, something that had been still for 5 years. "Sit down before you fall down," he said. "Is that an order?" "It is a strong suggestion." "I don't take orders from men." "Then take it as a favor to the man who has to stitch you up again." Clara sat, not because he told her to, because her legs gave out. She caught herself in the chair and lowered herself down, and her jaw locked against the pain. Silas knelt beside her, started undoing the bandage. "They will be back," Clara said. "I know, not just those two. Cotter will send more. Real killers, not tracking dogs." "I know that too. And you are still not going to let us leave. Where would you go? Storm is going to bury every road out of here by morning. You cannot ride. You have 2 children who have not been warm in 3 weeks. And the men who shot you know exactly which direction you came from. So we are trapped. We are sheltered. There is a difference." Clara winced as he cleaned the torn stitches. "That is a pretty way of saying trapped." "I am a pretty man." She laughed, short, sharp, surprised out of her. Then she caught herself and looked at him like laughing was something she had forgotten how to do and was not sure she was allowed. "When is the last time you laughed?" Silas asked. "I don't remember." "That long?" "Longer." The trap door in the loft opened. Tommy's face appeared. "Is it safe?" "It's safe," Clara said. "Come down, baby." Tommy climbed down. Lucy was on his back, arms around his neck, Penny dangling from one hand. Boone came down after them, which meant the old dog had climbed the ladder, which should have been impossible, but Boone had always done impossible things when children were involved. Lucy slid off Tommy's back and ran to Clara. "Mama, I heard the bangs. Were those guns?" "Yes, baby." "Did the bad men go away?" "They went away." "Did Silas make them go away?" Clara looked at Silas. "We both did." "Mama, you shot a gun?" "I did." "Was it scary?" "Yes." "Were you brave?" "I tried to be." Lucy climbed into her mother's lap, careful of the wound, gentle, the way children are gentle when they understand that the person they love is hurt. She put Penny on Clara's shoulder. "Penny will guard you while you sleep. She stayed up all night one time when I had a fever. She's real good at guarding." Clara pressed her face into Lucy's hair. Her eyes closed, her arms tightened. She held her daughter like holding her was the only thing keeping the world from splitting open. Tommy stood apart, watching. His face empty in the way that children's faces go empty when they have seen too much and felt too much, and there is no room left for expression. Silas recognized it. The 1,000-yard stare. He had seen it on boys in the war, boys Tommy's age, who carried drums and woke up screaming. "Tommy," Silas said, "come help me with something." "What?" "Boone needs feeding, and the horses need checking. And I could use a hand boarding up that window your mama shot through." "She shot through the glass?" "Clean through." Something crossed Tommy's face. Not quite pride, but close. "She's a good shot," Tommy said. "She is the best shot I have ever seen, and I fought in a war."
Tommy looked at his mother. Clara had fallen asleep in the chair with Lucy in her arms, both of them breathing slow. Boone had placed himself at their feet, guarding.
"Is she going to be okay?" Tommy asked. His voice was small now. The gun was on the table. The soldier was gone. He was just a boy asking if his mother was going to live. "She is tough." "I know she's tough. That ain't what I asked." "The wound is bad, but clean. She needs rest and food and warmth. She needs to not get shot again for at least a week." "That's a joke?" "That is a joke." "It ain't funny." "No, it ain't." They boarded the window together. Tommy held the planks while Silas nailed them. The boy worked quiet and focused, taking direction without argument, which told Silas everything about how Tommy had survived. Follow orders. Stay useful. Do not give anyone a reason to notice you. "Your daddy," Silas said, driving a nail. "He the one who hurt your mama?" Tommy's hands tightened on the plank. "I don't want to talk about him." "All right." "He wasn't always bad. That's what Mama says. He was good before the mine hurt his back. The pain made him drink."
"The drink made him mean." "That is not an excuse." "I know it ain't. Mama knows it too. That's why we left. 3 weeks in a blizzard, through the mountains. Mama said it was safer than staying. She was right." Tommy was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that hit Silas like a freight train. "Mr. Silas, do all men turn mean? If they get hurt enough, do they all go bad?" Silas put down the hammer. He turned to the boy, looked him full in the face. "No," he said. "Some men get hurt and they get mean. And some men get hurt and they get gentle, because they know what pain feels like, and they don't want anybody else to feel it." "Which kind are you?" "I like to think I am the gentle kind, but you will have to decide that for yourself." "How?" "By watching. Not what I say, what I do. Words are easy. Any man can make words sound good. You watch what a man does when he thinks nobody is looking. That tells you who he really is." Tommy considered this. The careful consideration of a child who has been lied to by adults and is learning to build his own system for sorting truth from fiction. "My daddy used to sing to Mama," Tommy said. "Real pretty. Church songs. Then he'd drink and hit her in the same night. So I stopped trusting singing." "That is a smart thing to stop trusting." "What should I trust?" "Trust the things that cost something. Anybody can sing. It's free. But a man who gets out of a warm bed in the cold to check on your mama's wound at 3 a.m, that costs something. A man who gives up his coat when it's below 0, that costs something. Trust the things that hurt to give." Tommy looked at Silas. Really looked. The way children look when they are deciding something important. "You gave Mama your coat," Tommy said. "I did." "And you're cold." "I am." "That cost you something." "It did." Tommy went to the bed, pulled off the blanket, brought it to Silas, draped it over his shoulders. The gesture was clumsy and rough and perfect. "There," Tommy said. "Now we're even." "Thank you, Tommy. Don't make it weird." "Wouldn't dream of it." They finished the window. Silas fed Boone, checked the horses, put more wood on the fire. Tommy helped with everything, did not speak much. But he stopped watching Silas like a threat and started watching him like a question, which was progress. The storm hit full force around midnight, wind screaming through the valley like something alive and angry, snow piling against the cabin walls, the temperature dropping so fast that ice formed on the inside of the window glass. Silas had lived through Wyoming winters for 15 years,
and this was the worst he had seen. He sat by the fire with his rifle across his knees. Clara slept in the bed, Lucy curled beside her. Tommy had taken the chair near the door. The boy would not sleep in the bed, would not sleep in the loft.
He sat in the chair with his back to the wall and his eyes on the door because that was what he did. That was his job. Guarding.
"Tommy," Silas said quietly, "they are not coming back tonight. Not in this. You don't know that. I know that no horse can move through what's out there. I know that those men are hunkered down somewhere right now, cursing the cold and wishing they were anywhere else. I know that for tonight, at least tonight, you can sleep." "I don't sleep good." "Bad dreams?" "Every night." "What about?" "Things I don't want to talk about." Silas nodded. "I have those too." "You do?" "Every man who has been through bad things has them. It does not mean you are broken. It means you survived something that tried to break you." Tommy pulled his knees up to his chest. He looked young. God, so young. 9 years old. 9. "Mr. Silas?" "Yeah?" "If the bad men come back, will you let me fight?" "I will let you do what needs doing."
But there is no shame in letting someone else carry the gun for a while. "I've been carrying it for 3 weeks. I know you have, and you did a hell of a job. But maybe, just maybe, you could let somebody else take a turn." Tommy's eyes glistened. He turned his face away, wiped it quick with his sleeve, pretended he had not. "Maybe," he said. "Good enough." "But I want it back. The gun. You promised." "And I keep my promises." "Mama's last husband promised things too." "I am not your mama's husband." "I know." Tommy was quiet for a long moment. Then, so soft Silas almost missed it. "She picked bad last time. I hope she picks better next." He closed his eyes. His breathing slowed. Sleep took him the way it takes exhausted children. Sudden and total. Like a candle being blown out. 1 second awake, the next gone. Silas sat in the quiet. The fire popping. The wind howling. 4 people breathing in a cabin built for one. He reached under the bed. His fingers found the pocket watch. Emmeline's. He held it in the firelight. Did not open it. Just held it. "I know," he whispered. "I know you would have taken them in too. You would have been better at this than me. You always were." He put the watch back, pulled the blanket Tommy had given him tighter around his shoulders. It smelled like dust and horse and loneliness. But under that, something else. Something new. Boone lifted his head from his place between the children, looked at Silas, thumped his tail once on the floor. "I know, boy," Silas said. "I feel it too." In the bed, Clara stirred. Her eyes opened, fever bright. She saw Silas by the fire, saw her children sleeping, saw the boarded window and the rifles and the old dog, and the man who had chosen to stand between her family and the dark. "Silas?" she whispered. "Yeah?" "I'm scared." It was the first true thing she had said without armor, without the rifle and the sharp words and the walls she had built from years of being hurt. Just 3 words, naked and honest in the firelight. "I know," Silas said. "Me too." "You don't look scared." "I have had practice hiding it." "What are you scared of?" He thought about that, about the truth, about giving it. "I am scared that those men will come back and I will not be enough. I am scared that storm will last a week and we will run out of food. I am scared that your boy will have to fire that gun again before he is ready." He paused. And I am scared that when this is over, you will leave, and this cabin will go back to being quiet. And I will go back to being the man I was before you bled on my porch." Clara stared at him across the room. The fire between them, throwing light and shadow. Two people, stripped bare by exhaustion and danger, and the strange intimacy of surviving together. "That is a lot of scared for one man," Clara said. "I am a lot of man." "That another joke?" "I am trying." Clara closed her eyes. A small smile. The second one he had seen from her. "Keep trying," she said. "You are getting better at it." She slept. Silas watched. The storm raged. The fire held. And somewhere in the dark beyond the cabin walls, Judge Ephraim Cotter sat in his office in Copper Bluff, reading a telegram that said the woman was alive and the journal was with her, and there was a rancher who had chosen the wrong side. Cotter folded the telegram, poured himself a whiskey, stared at the fire in his office hearth. "Bring me Virgil Whitmore," he said to the man standing in the shadows. "It is time the husband collected his wife." The man left. Cotter drank. The fire crackled. And 70 miles away, in a cabin buried in snow, a boy dreamed about his father's fists, and a girl dreamed about a dog named Boone. And a woman dreamed about nothing, because she had learned to sleep without dreaming. And a man sat awake through the longest night of his life, protecting a family that was not his, and wondering if maybe, just maybe, it could be. The storm lasted 3 days. 3 days of wind that screamed like something dying. 3 days of snow piling so high against the cabin walls that Silas had to dig out the door every morning just to reach the woodpile. 3 days of 5 bodies in a space built for one, learning each other's rhythms, each other's silences, each other's damage. Clara's fever broke on the second morning. She woke clear-eyed and furious, which Silas took as a good sign, because dying people did not get angry. They got quiet. Clara was anything but quiet. "I need to see the horses." "You need to stay in that bed." "I have been in this bed for 2 days." "And you have been bleeding for most of them." "The bleeding stopped." "Because you stopped moving. Start moving, and it starts again. I have seen it 100 times. Clara sat up anyway, swung her legs over the side, put her feet on the floor and stood, and her knees buckled, and Silas caught her arm, and she yanked it away so hard she staggered. "Don't touch me!" The words came fast, reflex, the voice of a woman who had been grabbed too many times by hands that meant harm. Silas stepped back, raised both hands, gave her space. "I am sorry," Clara said immediately. "I didn't mean—" "You don't have to apologize for that. Not to me, not to anybody." Clara stood there, gripping the bedpost, breathing hard, ashamed of the flinch, ashamed of the apology, caught between old fear and new reality. "Virgil used to grab my arm when he wanted me to stop talking," she said. "Always the same arm, always the same grip, hard enough to bruise, soft enough that nobody could see it under my sleeve. I will never grab you, not your arm, not anything. You have my word." "Words?" "I know. Watch what I do." Clara looked at him. Then she sat back down on the bed, not because he told her to, because she chose to. And the difference mattered more than either of them said. Tommy had taken over the cooking, not because anyone asked him, but because that was what Tommy did. He found a gap and he filled it. He made coffee that was too strong and eggs that were too burned, and he served both without apology. "This is good," Lucy said, chewing the eggs with determined optimism. "They're burned, Lucy,"
Burned is a flavor. Mama says every flavor counts. Mama was being nice. Mama is always nice. Mama shot a man's hat off. Nice people can shoot hats. That's just facts. Silas ate the burned eggs, drank the strong coffee,
Said nothing about either because the boy had stood at the stove with the concentration of a surgeon and the pride of a child, doing something grown, and telling him the eggs were bad would have been the cruelest thing Silas could do. "Tommy," Silas said, "you ever make biscuits?" "No." "You want to learn?" Tommy's guard went up. The reflex. "Why?" "Because I know how, and you don't. And biscuits go good with eggs. That's all. No trick." Tommy studied him, ran the offer through whatever system he had built for sorting lies from truth. Found it clean. "All right," he said. "But if you're teaching me something stupid, I'm walking away." Biscuits are never stupid. They made biscuits together. Silas showed Tommy how to cut the butter cold, how to work the dough without overhandling it, how to know when the oven was the right temperature by holding your hand inside and counting. Tommy listened with the fierce attention of a boy who had decided that every skill was a weapon, and every weapon kept you alive. "My daddy never taught me nothing," Tommy said, not looking up from the dough. "He said boys learn by watching, but all I watched him do was drink and hit." "Then you learned what not to do. That counts for something." "Does it?" "It counts for everything. Most men who hurt people learned it from men who hurt them. The chain goes back and back and back. You break it by choosing different. And you are already choosing different." "How do you know?" "Because you are standing in my kitchen making biscuits instead of making fists. That is a choice, and it is the right one." Tommy put the biscuits in the oven, stood back, wiped his hands on his shirt. "Mr. Silas?" "Yeah?" "If my daddy comes, don't let him take us back." "I won't." "He will say things. He will say, 'Mama is crazy.' He will say, 'He's changed.' He will cry and promise and swear on the Bible." "He does that. It's how he gets her back every time." "Not this time. You don't know him. He's real good at making you believe." "I don't care how good he is. He is not taking you or your sister or your mama out of this cabin. Not while I am standing." Tommy's lip trembled. He bit it. Turned to the oven. Watched the biscuits through the glass like they were the most important thing in the world, because looking at Silas right now would mean crying, and he was not going to cry. "They smell good," Tommy said. "They are going to be good." "Better than my eggs?" "Everything is better than your eggs." "That's mean." "That's honest." The biscuits came out golden. Lucy ate 3. Clara ate 2. Tommy ate 4 and tried to pretend he had only eaten 3. Boone got the scraps and looked at Silas like the old dog had discovered religion. On the third morning, the storm broke. The wind died to nothing. The sky cleared to that impossible Wyoming blue, and the sun hit the snow, and the whole world turned a blinding white. Silas dug out the door, checked the horses, scanned the tree line. Nothing moved. The snow was 4 feet deep in places, drifted to 6 in others. No horse could move through it. No man either. They were sealed in. "How long before the road's clear?" Clara asked from the doorway. She was standing now, moving slowly, holding the doorframe but upright. "A week, maybe more. Depends on the temperature." "And Cotter's men?" "Same as us, stuck. Wherever they hold up, they are not moving." Clara squinted at the white landscape. "So we have a week." "We have a week." "To do what?" "To heal, to plan, to figure out how to get that ledger to someone who can use it."
Helena is 200 miles. I know. Through territory Cotter controls. I know that too. You keep saying I know, like knowing fixes things. It doesn't fix anything, but it means I am not pretending, and I would rather deal with a hard truth than a comfortable lie. Clara looked at him with that measuring stare, the one that calculated and weighed and decided. You really are not like other men. I am exactly like other men. I just choose different. A sound reached them, distant, coming from the west. Silas reached for his rifle. Clara moved inside, toward hers. Both of them tense, both of them ready. Then Silas heard a voice he recognized, loud and cheerful and completely wrong for the situation. "Harding! Silas Harding! You alive in there, or do I get to keep your good saddle?" Silas lowered the rifle. "That is Heck Braddock, my neighbor. Can you trust him?" "With my life." "That's what I'm asking you to do, with all our lives." "I trust him." Heck Braddock came through the snow on a draft horse the size of a small building, pulling a sled loaded with supplies. He was 52, built like a barrel, red-faced from cold, and grinning the way he always grinned, which was constantly and without apparent reason. "Thought you were dead," Heck said, dismounting. "Saw your chimney smoke and figured either you were alive or your ghost had taken up cooking." "I am alive, Heck." "Good. I brought salt pork and flour and a bottle of whiskey that I was going to drink over your grave if you were dead." Heck stopped. He had seen Clara in the doorway, and Tommy behind her, and Lucy peering around Tommy's legs with Penny in her arms. "Well," Heck said, "Silas Harding with people in his house. I thought I would die before I saw this day." "Heck." "I mean it. I have been trying to get this man to come to dinner for 5 years, and he acts like my cooking is poison. Which it is, but that is not the point. And here he is with a whole family just moved right in." "Heck, this is not what it looks like."
It looks like a woman with a bandage and 2 kids with dirty faces and an old hound who finally has someone to lay on. Looks pretty good to me. These people are in trouble. Heck's grin faded. Not gone, but tempered. The man behind the jokes coming forward. "What kind of trouble?" "The kind that comes with guns." Heck looked at Clara, at the children, at the boarded window, at the bullet marks on the porch post that Silas had not had time to mention. "I see," Heck said. He tied his horse, unloaded the sled, carried the supplies inside without another word. When he was done, he sat at the table and poured 2 cups of coffee and pushed one toward Silas and said, "Tell me." Silas told him, all of it. Clara filled in the parts Silas did not know. Heck listened without interruption, which was remarkable for a man who usually could not go 30 seconds without a comment. When they finished, Heck sat back and looked at the ceiling and said a word that was not appropriate for children. "Sorry, little ones," he said to Tommy and Lucy. "I've heard worse," Tommy said. "I bet you have, son. I bet you have." Heck turned to Silas. "Judge Ephraim Cotter, you know I lost my brother-in-law in the Copper Bluff mine 3 years back." "I didn't know that." "Robert Pruitt, Maggie's brother. Night shift. They told us cave-in, natural causes. Maggie never believed it. Cried for a year. Then she stopped crying and started getting angry. Then she died. And I always thought the anger killed her more than the grief." "I am sorry, Heck." "Don't be sorry. Be right. Is this woman telling the truth?" "She is." "You believe her?" "With everything I have." Heck looked at Clara. "Ma'am, I am sorry for what you have been through. And I am sorry my friend here has terrible bedside manner. He was probably gruff and awkward, and said something accidentally kind that made you think he might be decent." Clara almost smiled. "That is exactly what happened." "He does that. Can't help himself. He thinks he is a mean old hermit, but really, He is just a sad man who forgot how to be around people. Give him time. He improves. Heck, Silas said. I am helping. This is me helping. Help quieter, Heck grinned. Then the grin faded again. What do you need? Allies. People in town who might stand with us when the time comes. Against Cotter. Against Cotter. That is a tall order. Most folks in Elk Crossing are scared of him. He owns the mercantile, controls the feed supply. You cross him, your cattle starve. There must be others who lost people in that mine. Heck rubbed his jaw. Margaret Sutter runs the general store. Her husband was night shift. She has never said it out loud, but I have seen the way she looks when someone mentions the mine, like she is swallowing broken glass. Can you talk to her? I can try. But Silas, if Cotter finds out we're gathering people against him, he won't wait for a trial. He will burn us out. All of us. He is already trying to burn us out. Then I reckon we better burn brighter. Lucy had been listening from the corner where she was brushing Boone's fur with a fork. Mr. Heck? Yes, little miss? Are you going to help us? I believe I am. Good. Penny was worried nobody would help. I told her people are mostly good, but she doesn't believe me because she's a sock, and socks have trust issues. Heck stared at Lucy for a long moment. Then he laughed. A real laugh, from the belly, the kind that shakes the dust off a room. I like this child, Heck said. I like her very much. Heck left that afternoon, promising to return in 2 days with news and more supplies. Silas watched him go and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. Small and fragile and easily broken, but there. The rest of the day passed in the strange, quiet domesticity of people learning to share space. Clara insisted on helping with dinner. She stood at the stove, one hand pressed to her side, the other stirring a pot of stew she had made from Heck's salt pork and the last of the dried beans. You should be resting, Silas said. I have been resting for 3 days. I am not an invalid. Nobody said you were. Then stop hovering. I am not hovering. You are standing 4 feet away staring at my bandage. I am standing 4 feet away because the cabin is 12 feet wide. There is nowhere else to stand. Clara pointed the spoon at him. You are a terrible liar. I have been told that. By your wife? The question landed soft. Clara had not mentioned Emmeline, had not asked, but she had seen the watch, the quilt, the single place setting, the absence that filled every corner of the cabin like furniture. Yes, Silas said. She said I could not lie to save my life. She said my face gave everything away. She was right. She usually was. What was her name? Emmeline. Pretty name. Pretty woman. Tell me about her. Silas did not talk about Emmeline. Not to Heck, not to anyone. The grief was a locked room he kept sealed. But Clara asked the way she did everything, direct and unflinching, and without the polite distance that lets people pretend they are not really asking. She laughed at things that were not funny, Silas said, burned everything she cooked, sang off-key to the horses, read books out loud to me at night, even though I told her I could read fine on my own. She said reading alone was just words, but reading together was a conversation. She sounds wonderful. She was, and then she was gone. The baby, too. A boy. We were going to name him Daniel. Clara stirred the stew. The sound of the spoon against the pot was the only sound in the cabin. Tommy and Lucy were in the loft. Boone was sleeping. I lost a baby, Clara said. Between Tommy and Lucy, a girl, 4 months along. Virgil pushed me down the stairs. He said it was an accident, said I tripped. Silas's hands curled into fists. He flattened them against his thighs. "I am sorry," he said. "I named her anyway, in my head. Hannah. I never told Virgil. He didn't deserve to know her name." "Hannah is a beautiful name." She would have been beautiful. She would have had Tommy's stubbornness and Lucy's laugh. And maybe, if God was kind, none of her father's cruelty. God is not always kind. No, but sometimes he puts you on the right road at the right time, even if the road is covered in snow, and the only landmark is a cabin with a sad man and an old dog. Silas looked at her. She was looking back, and for the first time since Emmeline, he felt the ground shift under him. The locked room opening. Just a crack, just enough to let in light. "Clara." "Yeah?" "Your stew is burning." "Damn it." She saved the stew. They ate together at the table, all four of them, plus Boone, who had positioned himself under Lucy's chair because Lucy had a habit of dropping food that was not accidental at all. Tommy ate without speaking, but he had moved his chair 3 inches closer to Silas since yesterday. 3 inches. Not much. Everything. After dinner, Lucy fell asleep on the floor with her head on Boone's stomach. Clara carried her to the loft. Tommy followed. Silas heard them settling, the nightly ritual. Clara singing soft, not a lullaby exactly, more like a hymn, low and steady and full of something that hurt to listen to. Silas cleaned the dishes, checked the fire, checked his rifles, stepped onto the porch. The night was clear and cold enough to freeze breath into crystals. Stars everywhere, the kind of sky that made a man feel small and enormous at the same time. He heard it before he saw it. A horse. One horse. Coming slow from the south. Not from the direction of Elk Crossing. From the direction of Copper Bluff. Silas picked up his rifle, stepped off the porch, moved to the tree line, waited. The rider came into view. A man, thin, hunched in the saddle, moving like every step hurt. His horse was lathered and stumbling. The man had been riding hard and long, and the animal was near finished. The rider stopped in the yard, looked at the cabin, looked at the chimney smoke, and his voice, when he spoke, was the broken rasp of a man who had been screaming or drinking, or both. "Clara! Clara, I know you're in there. I can see the light. Clara, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just want to talk. Please, baby, just let me talk to you. I'll be different. I swear it. I swear on our children. Clara, please." Virgil Whitmore had come for his wife. Silas did not move. He stood in the shadow of the pines, rifle ready, watching the man cry and beg in his front yard. And he felt something complicated. Not sympathy exactly, but recognition. The recognition of a broken man looking at another broken man and knowing that the difference between them was not strength or goodness, but choices. 1,000 small choices made every day that either built a man up or tore him down. The cabin door opened. Clara stood in the frame, rifle in her hands, pointed at Virgil. "Get off that horse," she said. "Clara, baby, I am not your baby. I have not been your baby since the first time you hit me. Get off the horse." Virgil dismounted. His legs buckled. He went to his knees in the snow. Whether from exhaustion or performance, Silas could not tell. Maybe both. "I made mistakes," Virgil said. "I know that. God, I know that. But I'm your husband. Those are my children. You can't just take them." "You watch me." "Clara, Cotter sent me, but I'm not here for him. I'm here for us, for our family. You stopped being family when you put your hands on our son." I was drinking. I was in pain. Your back does not give you the right to touch my children. Nothing gives you that right. Nothing in this world." Virgil was crying, real tears, the kind that come from a place so deep and ruined that they might even be honest. But honest tears from a man who hit his wife were still tears from a man who hit his wife. And Clara had stopped being fooled by tears a long time ago. Tommy appeared in the doorway behind his mother. His face was white, his whole body rigid. He was staring at his father with an expression that no 9-year-old should know how to make. Hate and fear and love, all tangled together into something that had no name. "Go back inside, Tommy," Clara said. Tommy did not move. "Boy," Virgil said. "Tommy, son, come here. Come to your daddy." "Don't you talk to him," Clara said. "Don't you ever talk to him again." "He's my son." "He's my son. He has been my son since the first night you came home drunk and I put my body between yours and his crib. He has been my son every time I took the hit so he wouldn't have to. He has been mine, Virgil. You gave him up every time you raised your hand." The words hung in the frozen air. Virgil's face crumbled, and for a moment, just a moment, Silas saw the man he might have been. Before the mine, before the pain, before the bottle. A man who had loved his wife and held his newborn son, and planned a life that the world had ground to dust. But the moment passed, and what came next was the thing Clara had warned Tommy about. The switch, the pivot, the turn from grief to fury that alcoholic men make when sympathy does not get them what they want. Virgil stood up. His face changed. The tears dried. The jaw set. The eyes went flat. "I didn't come here to beg," he said. "Cotter gave me a message. You give him the ledger, and he lets you live. You keep running, and he kills you. He kills the children. He kills whoever is hiding you." "And what do you get, Virgil? What did he promise you?" "He promised to fix my back. A real doctor. Surgery. No more pain." "So you sold your wife and children for a doctor's appointment." "I sold nothing. I'm trying to save you." "You're trying to save yourself, like always." Virgil took a step toward the cabin. Silas stepped out of the tree line, the rifle leveled at Virgil's chest. Virgil froze. "Who the hell are you?" "The man whose land you are standing on." Virgil looked at Silas, looked at the rifle, looked back at Clara. And Silas watched something ugly move across Virgil's face. Jealousy. Possession. The rage of a man who believes his wife is property, and someone else has touched what belongs to him. "Is this him?" Virgil said to Clara. "This who you left me for? Some rancher? You took my children from their home for this?" "I took my children from a man who beat them. That is all this is." "You're lying. You're a lying whore, and you—" "Finish that sentence," Silas said quietly, "and it will be the last one you speak." Virgil turned to him. The two men faced each other in the snow, one with a rifle, one with nothing but rage and pain and the wreckage of a life he had destroyed with his own hands. "You don't know what she is," Virgil said. "She lies. She manipulates. She turns people against you. She'll do it to you, too." "I have heard enough. She's my wife. She's nobody's property. Not yours, not mine, not anyone's. And if you come back to this land, if you come near those children, if you so much as say her name where I can hear it, I will end this conversation permanently. Do you understand?" Virgil looked at Silas and saw what Dunn and Mercer had seen, what the riders in the storm had seen. A man who was not bluffing. A man who had buried enough people and was done letting the wrong ones die. "Cotter will come himself,"
Virgil whispered. "And he'll bring an army."
"Then he'll need one." Virgil turned to Clara one last time. "You'll regret this."
"I regret marrying you," Clara said. "I regret believing you when you said you'd change. I regret every bruise and every broken dish and every night my children slept on the floor because they were afraid to walk past you to get to their beds. But I will never, ever regret leaving." Virgil mounted his horse. He looked at Tommy, still standing in the doorway. The boy met his father's eyes, did not look away, did not flinch. "Daddy," Tommy said. Virgil stopped. "Don't come back." 3 words, spoken by a 9-year-old boy to the man who made him. 3 words that weighed more than the snow on the mountains and the grief in the cabin and every broken promise ever made. Virgil rode away. The sound of his horse faded into the dark. Clara lowered the rifle. Her hands were steady. Her face was dry. She turned and knelt in front of Tommy and took his face in both her hands.
"I am so proud of you," she said. "I told him not to come back."
"I heard."
"Do you think he'll listen?"
"No."
"Me neither."
Tommy paused.
"But it felt good to say it."
Clara pulled him close, held him. Tommy's arms went around her neck, and he buried his face in her shoulder, and he cried. The first time he had cried since they left Copper Bluff. 3 weeks of carrying the weight of the world on a 9-year-old's back, and finally, letting it go. Silas stood in the yard, rifle still in his hands, watching the dark where Virgil had disappeared. Boone came out and sat beside him. The dog pressed against his leg. "I know, boy," Silas said. "I know." From inside, Lucy's voice, sleepy and confused, drifting through the door.
"Mama, why is Tommy crying? Tommy never cries."
Clara's voice, thick, wrecked, holding together by will alone.
"Because he's brave, Lucy Bug. Brave people cry the hardest." "Is Mr. Silas brave?" "Yes, baby. He's very brave."
"Does he cry?" Clara did not answer, but from where she held Tommy, she looked through the doorway at Silas, standing alone in the snow, rifle at his side, guarding them. And his eyes were shining in the moonlight, and he turned away so she would not see. But she saw. She saw everything, and she thought, for the first time in years, that maybe not all men turn mean. Maybe some of them just turn quiet. And maybe quiet was enough. Heck came back 2 days later. He did not come alone. Margaret Sutter rode behind him on a gray mare, her back straight as a church pew, her face set in the expression of a woman who had made a decision and would not be unmade. She was 60 years old, and she looked like she could outlast the mountain itself. Silas met them in the yard. Clara stood in the doorway, rifle in hand. She did not lower it until Silas nodded. "Margaret Sutter," Heck said, "runs the general store in Elk Crossing. Lost her husband William in the Copper Bluff mine 3 years ago."
Night shift. Margaret dismounted, looked at Clara, looked at her a long time. Then she said, "You saw it happen." "Yes, ma'am. You saw them kill my William." "I saw them seal the mine. I heard the explosion." "I'm sorry." Margaret's jaw worked. Her eyes were dry, but the effort of keeping them dry was visible in every line of her face. "I have waited 3 years for someone to say that. 3 years of being told it was an accident. 3 years of smiling at the men who murdered my husband because I had no proof and no one to believe me." "I believe you," Clara said. "I know you do, child. That is why I am here." They gathered inside. The cabin was crowded now. 6 adults, counting Silas, Clara, Heck, and Margaret, plus Tommy and Lucy and Boone, who had decided his primary function in life was to be Lucy's pillow
and had committed to the role fully. Margaret sat at the table. She pulled a folded paper from her coat and smoothed it flat.
After Heck told me what you had, I went through William's things. He kept a journal. I thought it was just work notes, numbers, and dates. I never could make sense of it. But look. She pointed to a column of figures. These are ore yields. William recorded them every night. And these, she pointed to another column, are the official reports filed with the territorial office. Clara leaned in. They don't match. Not even close. The official reports show half what William recorded. The difference is millions, Mrs. Whitmore. Millions stolen over 2 years. That matches Virgil's ledger. The numbers will corroborate. Margaret looked up. You have the ledger? I have it. Then we have 2 sources, 2 separate records showing the same theft. Any judge worth his robe would have to act on that. Any honest judge, Silas said. The judge in Copper Bluff is Cotter's man. Then we don't go to Copper Bluff. We go to Helena. Territorial Marshal. Federal jurisdiction. That is 200 miles in winter. I know how far it is. I also know that my husband is in a hole in the ground, and the man who put him there is sleeping in a warm bed. So I will walk to Helena barefoot, if that is what it takes. Clara reached across the table and took Margaret's hand. The older woman looked startled. Then she gripped back. 2 women holding on to each other because the grief they carried was too heavy for one pair of hands. How many families lost someone in that mine? Clara asked. 14 men died, 11 families in the area. Some have moved away, some are too scared. But a few have been waiting for someone to tell them they were right to doubt. Can you reach them? I have been reaching them for 3 years. Sunday dinners, quilting circles, the kinds of gatherings men don't pay attention to, because they think women just sit and gossip. We have been talking, Mrs. Whitmore. We have been talking for a long time. We just didn't have proof.
Heck leaned back in his chair. So the women of Elk Crossing have been running a quiet resistance under everybody's noses, and nobody noticed. Men never notice what women do, Mr. Braddock. That is our greatest advantage. Tommy was sitting on the floor by the fire, cleaning Silas's spare rifle with a rag. He had not asked to do it. He had just picked it up and started, the way he always found something useful to occupy his hands when the adults talked about things that scared him. But he was listening. He was always listening. How many? Tommy asked. Everyone looked at him. How many people will stand with us? Real number. Margaret studied the boy, saw something in his face that made her sit straighter. 8 families for certain, maybe 12 if the evidence is strong enough. And how many men does Judge Cotter have? The sheriff, 4 deputies, maybe a dozen hired guns he keeps at the mine. So we're outnumbered. We are. Okay. Tommy went back to cleaning the rifle. Just wanted to know. Clara watched her son. The ache in her chest was so deep it had no bottom. This was not a conversation a 9-year-old should be part of. This was not arithmetic a child should know how to do. But Tommy was doing it because the world had not given him the choice to be a child, and she could not give it back no matter how much she wanted to. Silas caught her eye across the room. He had seen it too. The way Tommy calculated odds, the way other boys calculated marbles. He gave Clara a small nod. Not comfort exactly. Acknowledgement. I see what you see. I feel what you feel. We will fix this if we can. We need to move fast, Silas said. Virgil went back to Cotter, told him where we are. The snow bought us time, but it won't last. When the road's clear, Cotter will come with everything he has. Then we don't wait for him to come to us, Margaret said. We go to him. How? Cotter is hosting a gathering in Elk Crossing 3 days from now. A winter social at the town hall. Food and music and speeches. He does it every year. plays the generous benefactor, the great man who feeds the town in hard times. He's coming to Elk Crossing? With his sheriff and his judge and his whole operation. A show of power. He wants people grateful and obedient. Clara stood. Then we give him a show of our own. In front of the whole town? Where else? If we confront him privately, he kills us. If we take the evidence to Helena, it takes months, and he has time to destroy everything and everyone who could testify. But if we do it publicly, in front of witnesses, in front of families who lost people in that mine, he cannot silence everyone, not all at once. He could try, Heck said. He could, but there is a difference between killing a woman in the wilderness and killing her in front of 200 people. One is a secret. The other is a war. And Cotter does not want a war. He wants obedience. Silas looked at Clara. She was standing in the center of the room, one hand pressed to her wound, the other gesturing as she talked, her eyes bright, her voice strong. This was the woman who had walked 3 weeks through a blizzard. This was the woman who had survived a husband's fists and the killer's bullet and the annihilation of everything she knew. And she was not broken. She was not even bent. She was standing in his cabin, making a plan to take down the most powerful man in Wyoming, and she was making it sound possible. "You are something, Clara Whitmore," Silas said. "I am a mother whose children are in danger. That is all I am." "That is plenty," Margaret stood. "I will ride back tonight. Start spreading word. The families will be at the social. They will be ready." "Ready for what, exactly?" Heck asked. "Ready to listen. Ready to stand. Ready to do what they should have done 3 years ago, when they buried their men and swallowed the lie." Margaret left within the hour. Heck stayed. He would ride out at dawn to check on his own ranch, and then circle back before the social. 3 days to prepare. 3 days to plan. 3 days before everything changed. That night, after the children were asleep in the loft, Clara sat at the table with Virgil's ledger open in front of her. She was copying pages, duplicates, in case something happened to the original. Silas sat across from her, loading ammunition. The rhythm was domestic, almost peaceful. 2 people working in silence by firelight while children slept above them. It felt like something that could last, and that terrified Silas more than Cotter's men. "You are staring," Clara said without looking up. "I am thinking." "About what?" "About what happens after." "After what?" "After we win. After Cotter is done. After the ledger goes to Helena, and the trials start, and the families get their answers. What happens to you and Tommy and Lucy?" Clara's pen stopped. She looked up. "I haven't thought that far." "Maybe you should." "Why?" "Because people who don't plan for after tend not to survive long enough to get there. You need something to live for beyond the fight." "My children are what I live for." "I know, but where? Copper Bluff is gone. You can't go back there." Clara set down the pen. "Are you asking me to stay?" The question sat between them like a loaded gun. Both of them aware of it. Both of them careful around it. "I am asking what you want," Silas said. "What I want? Nobody has asked me that in 10 years. "I am asking now." Clara leaned back. She looked at the ceiling, at the walls, at the quilt on the bed that another woman had sewn, at the cabin that held another woman's memory and the lonely man's grief. "I want to sleep through the night without waking up afraid. I want Tommy to laugh like a kid instead of standing guard like a soldier. I want Lucy to grow up believing what she already believes, that people are mostly good, and dogs are always good, and a rag doll can fix anything. Those are good wants. They are impossible wants.
Maybe, maybe not. Clara looked at him. What do you want, Silas? He put down the rifle, looked at his hands, the hands that had held Emmeline as she died, the hands that had dug her grave, the hands that had caught Clara before she hit the floor, and held Tommy's burned biscuits, and shaken Lucy's hand on behalf of a rag doll named Penny. I want this cabin to stop being a tomb, he said. I want to cook breakfast for more than one. I want that dog to have someone to follow around who is not a ghost going through the motions. I want... He stopped, caught himself, pulled back. Say it, Clara said. I want to be the man your son needs, not his father, not trying to replace anybody. Just a man who shows up, who stays, who does not hit, who teaches him things that matter and lets him be a boy instead of a soldier. Clara's eyes filled. She did not blink, did not wipe them, let them fall. You already are, she said. 3 days, Silas. 3 days, and he moved his chair closer to you. 3 days, and he cleaned your rifle without being asked. 3 days, and he looks at you when he is scared, instead of looking at the door. He is a good kid. He is a broken kid, and you are putting him back together. Do you know how long I have prayed for someone to do that? Clara, I am not done. Lucy calls your dog her best friend. She put Penny on your pillow this morning. You know what that means? She has not let Penny out of her arms since we left Copper Bluff. That doll is her security, her safety, her everything. And she put it on your pillow. Because she feels safe here. Because you made her feel safe. Silas did not trust himself to speak. His throat was tight, and his eyes were burning, and he was not going to cry in front of this woman because he had not cried since Emmeline, and if he started now, he might not stop. You asked what I want, Clara said. She stood, walked around the table, stood in front of him, close, not touching, just close enough. I want to stay. Not because I have nowhere else to go. Not because you saved my life. Not because my children need a roof. I want to stay because when you look at me, you see a person. Not a wife, not a mother, not a victim. A person. And I have not been seen like that in so long, I forgot what it felt like. Clara, I am not a good bet. I have been dead inside for 5 years. I talk to a dog and a grave, and I forget to eat, and I didn't ask for a good bet. I asked for a good man. And you are one, whether you believe it or not. She put her hand on his chest, over his heart. He could feel the warmth of her palm through his shirt. His hand came up and covered hers. They stood that way for a long moment. Not a kiss, not a promise. Just two people choosing to stop being alone. After, Silas said. When this is over. When this is over. I will ask you proper, the way a woman deserves to be asked. I will say yes, the way a man deserves to hear. She squeezed his hand, went back to her side of the table, picked up the pen, started copying again. And Silas picked up the rifle and started loading again. And the cabin was quiet, and the fire was warm, and above them 2 children slept without nightmares for the first time in 3 weeks. The next 2 days passed like a held breath. Silas talked Tommy to ride, put him on the gentlest horse, and led him around the corral in the trampled snow. The boy was rigid at first, terrified of the animal's size, its power, the way it moved without asking permission. She won't hurt you, Silas said. Her name is Bess, and she is older than both of us combined, and the meanest thing she has ever done is step on my foot because I was late with her oats. What if she throws me? She won't. But what if she does? Then you get up and get back on. That is the whole lesson, Tommy. Not just horses. Everything.
You get thrown, you get back on. Tommy rode, stiff and scared and determined. By the second day, he was posting in the saddle and his hands had stopped shaking on the reins. "You're a natural," Silas said. "You're a liar." "I am a terrible liar. Your mama said so." Tommy almost smiled. Not quite. The muscles moved, but the permission had not been granted yet. Somewhere inside that 9-year-old boy, a committee was still deliberating on whether smiling was safe. Lucy spent the 2 days with Boone. She had invented an elaborate game in which Boone was a sheriff and Penny was his deputy, and they were solving crimes committed by a pine cone named Mr. Wickles. The game required Boone to sit, stand, lie down, and wear a bandana around his neck, all of which the old dog did with the patient dignity of a creature who has lived long enough to understand that love sometimes looks ridiculous. "Mr. Wickles stole the biscuits," Lucy announced. "Did he?" Silas said. "Yes, Sheriff Boone is investigating. Deputy Penny found crumbs." "Sounds like an open and shut case." "It is. Mr. Wickles is going to jail. Jail is behind the woodpile." "Seems fair." "Penny says justice must be served." Clara watched these moments and held them like coins, small and precious, the currency of a life she was building from rubble. She watched Tommy ride a horse and stop flinching when Silas raised his hand to adjust the reins. She watched Lucy laugh without looking over her shoulder first. She watched a man move through her children's lives with patience and gentleness and the quiet competence of someone who had nothing to prove. And she thought about the social, about Cotter, about what would happen in the town hall when she stood up in front of everyone and told the truth, about the very real possibility that she would not survive it. The night before the social, Clara could not sleep. She stood at the window, looking out at the snow. Silas found her there. "Scared?" he asked. "Terrified." "Good. Terrified people pay attention." "What if it doesn't work? What if they don't believe me? What if Cotter's men start shooting?" "Then we deal with it." "That is not a plan." "No, it is a promise. Whatever happens in that room, you will not be alone. I will be there. Heck will be there. Margaret and her families will be there. And if it goes bad, I will get you and the children out. I swear it." "On what?" Silas reached into his pocket, pulled out the watch, Emmeline's, opened it for the first time in 5 years. Inside, the inscription, "Come home to me." He showed it to Clara. "On her," Silas said. "On everything she meant. On the life I should have lived and didn't. I swear on my wife's memory that I will bring you home." Clara looked at the watch, at the inscription, at the man holding it with hands that trembled because opening it cost him something real. She closed the watch gently, pressed it back into his palm, folded his fingers around it. "Keep it close," she said, "and bring yourself home, too." "I will try." "Don't try. Do it. Your children are upstairs." "They are not my—" "They are. They have been since the moment you knelt in the snow and told Tommy his eggs were terrible. They chose you, Silas, the way I chose you. Not because you are perfect, because you are present, because you show up, because you stay." Silas closed his eyes, opened them. The woman in front of him was not Emmeline, would never be Emmeline. And that was not a betrayal. That was life, moving forward, choosing to live again after learning how to die. "Tomorrow," he said. "Tomorrow. We ride to Elk Crossing. We walk into that social, and we tell the truth in front of everyone. And if Cotter fights, then we fight back. And if we lose, then we lose standing up." Clara took his hand, held it.
Not the way she had held it before, gently, carefully. This time she held it like she meant it. Like letting go was not something she planned on doing.
Silas Harding.
Yeah?
When this is over, don't you dare ask me proper. Just kiss me.
Yes, ma'am. They stood at the window together. The night was clear, the stars were out. And somewhere in Elk Crossing, a town hall was being decorated for a social that would either be a celebration or a reckoning. And in Copper Bluff, Judge Ephraim Cotter adjusted his cufflinks and practiced his smile, and had no idea that the woman he thought broken, the children he thought helpless, and the rancher he thought irrelevant, were riding toward him with the truth in a leather ledger and fire in their blood. Morning came. Silas saddled the horses. Clara dressed the children warm. Tommy wore Silas's spare coat, too big but functional. Lucy wore a scarf Margaret had left behind, wrapped 3 times around her neck, with Penny tucked inside it.
Penny likes the scarf, Lucy said. She says she looks fashionable.
She does, Silas said.
Are we going to the party?
We are going to the social.
Is there cake at socials?
Sometimes.
Then I am in favor of this plan.
Tommy said nothing. He climbed onto Bess without help, sat straight in the saddle. His face was stone. His eyes were clear. He was 9 years old, and he was riding into a fight, and he was not going to let anyone see him shake. Clara mounted behind Silas on Ghost, her arms around his waist, her cheek against his back, the ledger in a satchel at her hip. Heck met them at the crossroads. He had a shotgun across his saddle, and his grin was gone for the first time since Silas had known him. "Ready?" Heck asked. "No," Silas said. "Good. If you were ready, I would worry you were crazy." They rode toward Elk Crossing. 4 horses, 5 people, 1 dog, 1 rag doll, and the truth, riding with them like a 6th passenger, heavy and dangerous and impossible to put down. The town hall was full by the time they arrived. 200 people packed into a room built for half that, wearing their Sunday best, stamping snow from their boots, filling plates from long tables loaded with food that Judge Cotter had paid for, because generosity was the mask he wore best. A fiddle played in the corner. Children ran between legs. The smell of roasted meat and fresh bread and wood smoke filled the air, and for a moment, standing in the doorway, Clara thought it looked like every gathering she had ever loved before her life became a thing she survived instead of lived. Silas felt her tense behind him. Her hand tightened on his arm. "I can't do this," she whispered. "You can. They think I'm crazy. 3 years they've been told I'm the mad woman who ran into the mountains. They'll laugh. They'll throw me out. They won't. And if they try, they go through me first." Tommy stood beside them. His face was pale but set. He had Silas's spare pistol in his belt, hidden under the too big coat. Silas had given it back that morning without a word. The boy had taken it without a word. Some promises did not need to be spoken twice. Lucy held Penny against her chest and looked at the crowd with wide eyes. "There's a lot of people," she said. "There are," Silas said. "Do they all know about the bad man?" "Some of them, not all." "Then we should tell them. Mama says secrets make you sick, right, Mama?" Clara looked down at her daughter. This child who still believed that truth was simple, and justice was a thing you could hold in your hands like a rag doll. She knelt and pressed her forehead to Lucy's. "Right, baby. Secrets make you sick." "Then let's make everybody better." Margaret found them inside. She appeared at Clara's elbow, solid and steady, smelling of lavender soap and certainty. "My people are here," she said quietly. 11 families, scattered through the room. They know what's coming. When you stand, they stand. "And Cotter? Front of the room, platform."
Sheriff Grady on his right, 2 deputies at the doors, 4 more outside. He brought muscle to a social? He always does. Calls it security. Everybody knows what it really is. Heck had positioned himself near the back door. He caught Silas's eye across the room, nodded once, ready. Cotter took the platform at 7 o'clock. He was exactly what Clara remembered. Expensive suit, silver hair, the smile that never reached his eyes. He raised his hands and the room quieted, because when Judge Ephraim Cotter raised his hands, people stopped talking. That was power. That was 3 years of power bought with blood and maintained with fear. "Friends," Cotter began. "Neighbors."
It is my great honor to welcome you to our annual winter social. In times like these, when the cold tests us and the world seems harsh, we remember what matters: community, generosity, the bonds that tie us together. Clara's stomach turned. She watched the faces in the crowd. Some nodded along, grateful for the food, the warmth, the illusion of benevolence. Others kept their eyes down. The ones who knew, the ones who suspected, the ones who had buried someone and swallowed the lie because the alternative was too dangerous. Cotter talked for 10 minutes. Promises of spring, plans for expansion, the mine reopening under new safety measures, he said, with the gravity of a man who genuinely believed his own mythology. He spoke about progress, about Wyoming's future, about the sacrifices necessary for greatness. "Sacrifices," Margaret whispered beside Clara. "He calls my William a sacrifice." Clara squeezed her hand. "Not for long." Cotter was wrapping up. "And so I say to you, friends, let us look forward. Let us build. Let us honor the memory of those we have lost by creating a future worthy of their what?" Clara's voice cut through the room like a blade. She stepped forward. The crowd parted, not because they wanted to, but because the woman walking through them moved like something that could not be stopped. Cotter saw her. His face did not change. That was the terrifying thing. No surprise, no fear, just the flat calculation of a man assessing a threat. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "we had heard you were unwell." "I am very well, Judge. Better than I have been in 3 years. "I'm glad to hear it. Perhaps we could speak privately after." "No, we speak now, in front of everyone. That is what you like, isn't it? An audience?" The room had gone silent. The fiddle stopped. Children were pulled close to mothers. Every eye moved between Clara and Cotter, sensing the charge in the air, the way animals sense lightning before it strikes. Cotter's smile stayed fixed. "I'm not sure what you think 14 men, Judge. 14 men on the night shift at Copper Bluff. My husband Samuel among them. Margaret Sutter's husband William. Thomas Pruitt's son. Every one of them killed. Not by a cave-in, not by an accident. By dynamite set at the mine entrance on your orders." The silence became something else. Something with weight. People stopped breathing. Cotter's smile flickered. "This woman is disturbed," he said to the crowd. "She suffered a terrible loss. My grief has kept me alive." Clara pulled the ledger from the satchel, held it high. "This is my husband's record. Every ore yield, every shipment, every dollar stolen from the mine over 2 years. Millions taken by you. And when my husband and 13 other men found out, you killed them." "That is a lie." "It is the truth, and I am not the only one who knows it." Margaret stood. "My husband kept records too." She held up William's journal. Same numbers, same discrepancy. 2 men who didn't know each other, keeping the same count. Both dead in the same night. A murmur ran through the crowd. Cotter's eyes moved to Sheriff Grady. A signal. Grady stepped forward. "All right, that's enough. Mrs. Whitmore, you need to come with me."
"She's not going anywhere." Silas stepped in front of Clara. He did not touch his weapon. He did not need to. His body was the weapon, tall and broad and placed between Clara and every threat in the room. "Mr. Harding, this is not your concern," Grady said. "A woman telling the truth in a public room is everybody's concern. She is making accusations she can't prove. She has the proof in her hands. 2 sets of books, 2 witnesses. And I reckon there are more in this room." Clara looked at the crowd. "I know you're scared."
I was scared for 3 years. I hid in the mountains. I nearly died. My children nearly froze. I hid because I thought nobody would believe me. Because he, she pointed at Cotter, told everyone I was crazy, that I was dangerous, that I couldn't be trusted. She held up her hands, the scars visible, the old bruises, the marks of a life lived under violence. "Do I look dangerous to you? Does a woman with 2 children and a bullet wound look like someone you need to be protected from? Or does she look like someone who needs to be protected?" A woman in the crowd stood. Clara did not know her. Middle-aged, weathered, wearing a black dress that spoke of mourning that had never ended. "My brother was on that night shift," the woman said. "Patrick Dunn. They told me he died quick. They told me he didn't suffer. But I never believed it, because the mine was sealed in 3 days. They never brought the bodies out. My brother is still in there, in the dark. And nobody ever explained why they didn't try to dig them out." Another voice, a man this time, old, stooped, standing with the help of a cane. "My son James, same shift, same lie. I asked Deputy Purcell for an investigation. He said there would be one. There never was." Deputy Purcell was in the room, young, pale, standing near the door like a man looking for an exit. Clara saw him and felt something unexpected. Not anger, pity, because the deputy looked the way Tommy looked when he was caught between knowing what was right and being too afraid to do it. "Deputy Purcell," Clara said, "you know the truth. You've known it for 3 years." Every head turned to the young deputy. He looked like a rabbit in a clearing. His eyes darted to Cotter, to Grady, to the door. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said. But his voice cracked, and his hand shook, and every person in the room heard the lie. "Your mother was sick," Clara said gently. "Cotter had the medicine. He told you to keep quiet and your mother would live. I understand. I don't blame you. But your mother died anyway, didn't she?" Purcell's face crumbled. "Last spring. She died last spring. And now the only thing keeping you quiet is fear. And fear is not enough, Deputy. Not when 14 men are in the ground and their families are in this room, and the man who killed them is standing on a platform eating cake." Purcell looked at Cotter, at the judge who had promised and lied and used a sick woman as a leash. And something in the young man's face changed. Something broke, and something else grew in the breaking. "She's telling the truth," Purcell said. "All of it. I saw the reports. I saw Grady bury the investigation. I saw Cotter pay off the territorial inspector. I saw everything, and I said nothing, because I was afraid. And I am sorry. God, I am sorry." The room erupted, voices shouting, crying. 3 years of suppressed grief and suspicion breaking through like water through a dam. Cotter's mask finally cracked. He grabbed the podium with both hands, and his voice went hard. "Enough! This is a conspiracy, a coordinated attack by a disturbed woman and a collection of malcontents. Sheriff Grady, arrest these people." Grady reached for Clara. Silas stepped forward. Heck stepped forward from the back. And then Tommy stepped forward. A 9-year-old boy, wearing a coat 3 sizes too big, stepped between the sheriff and his mother. He did not pull the gun.
He did not shout. He just stood there, small and fierce and shaking, and he said, "Don't touch my mama." Grady stopped, not because of the boy, because of what the boy represented. A child standing in front of armed men to protect his mother. And every person in that room saw it, and every person in that room felt it. And the ones who had been sitting stood, and the ones who had been silent spoke.
"You going to arrest a child, Grady?" Heck called out. "That what Cotter pays you for?" "Leave the boy alone," Margaret said. "Leave all of them alone. We are done being afraid." Cotter saw it happening, the room turning, the power shifting. He reached inside his coat, and Clara saw the gun before anyone else did, because she had spent 10 years reading the body language of violent men. "Silas!" she screamed. Cotter pulled the pistol, aimed at Clara. And 3 things happened at once. Silas threw himself in front of her. Heck raised his shotgun, and Deputy Wade Purcell, the young man who had been too scared to speak for 3 years, drew his sidearm and put himself between Cotter and the crowd. "Put it down, Judge," Purcell said. His voice was steady now. The shaking was gone. "Put it down, or I will drop you where you stand." Cotter looked at Purcell, at the gun aimed at his chest, at the room full of people watching, at the world he had built crumbling around him in real time. "You are nothing," Cotter said to Purcell. "You are a boy playing deputy. You don't have the... I have the badge. I have the gun. And I have 3 years of shame that I plan to make right, starting now. Put the weapon down." Cotter's hand trembled. The pistol wavered. Silas had Clara behind him, shielding her with his body. Tommy was pressed against his mother's legs, and Lucy, who had been quiet through all of it, stepped out from behind Margaret Sutter and walked toward the platform. "Lucy, no!" Clara reached for her. Silas tried to grab her, but the child moved through the crowd like water through stones, small and quick and unstoppable. She stood in front of Cotter, looked up at him. A 5-year-old girl with a rag doll and blue eyes and no fear, because she had not yet learned to be afraid of men in suits. "Penny says you should stop being mean," Lucy said. "Penny says mean people are just sad people who forgot how to be nice." "Are you sad, mister?" Cotter looked down at the child, the gun still in his hand. The whole room holding its breath, and something happened to Cotter's face that nobody expected. It broke. Not in anger, not in calculation. In grief. Because Judge Ephraim Cotter had lost a daughter 20 years ago to diphtheria, and he had never recovered. And the little girl standing in front of him with a rag doll had the same color eyes as the child he had buried. The gun lowered. Cotter's arm dropped to his side. Purcell stepped forward and took the weapon from his hand. Cotter did not resist. "I had a daughter," Cotter said, to no one, to everyone. "She died. And everything after that was just noise." "That doesn't excuse what you did," Clara said. "No, it doesn't." Sheriff Grady tried to run. Heck blocked the door. 2 of Margaret's people blocked the windows. The deputies outside, seeing the shift, laid down their weapons without a fight. The power structure of Copper Bluff and Elk Crossing collapsed in the time it takes a child to cross a room. Purcell took Cotter into custody. Heck held Grady. Margaret collected the ledger and William's journal and placed them in the hands of the town clerk, a nervous man named Patterson, who had never done a brave thing in his life, but who accepted the evidence with shaking hands and a nod that said he would do right by it. Silas found Clara in the crowd. She was kneeling on the floor holding both children, Tommy on one side, Lucy on the other. Boone had somehow gotten inside and was pressed against Tommy's back, guarding, always guarding. "Is it over?" Tommy asked. "The hard part," Silas said.
What's the easy part? Everything after. That doesn't sound easy. Easier than this. Tommy considered it. Then he leaned his head against his mother's shoulder and closed his eyes. The soldier standing down. The boy coming back. Lucy looked up at Silas. Penny says you did good.
Tell Penny I said thank you. She already knows. She hears everything. Clara stood. Her wound was bleeding again. She did not care. She walked to Silas and stood in front of him, and the whole room was watching, but she did not care about that either. You said you would ask me proper when this was over. I said that. And I said don't ask, just kiss me. You said that too. So why are you still talking? Silas Harding, who had been dead for 5 years, who had buried his wife and his child and his heart on a hillside in Wyoming, who had talked to a dog and the grave and an empty cabin, because those were the only things that listened, pulled Clara Whitmore against his chest and kissed her in front of 200 people and a 9-year-old boy who pretended to look away, and a 5-year-old girl who clapped, and a rag doll who saw everything. The room cheered. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to matter. The weeks that followed were hard. The territorial marshal came from Helena. Evidence was reviewed. Statements taken. Cotter was transported to Helena for trial. Grady was stripped of his badge. The mine was reopened. Not for gold, for the dead. 14 men brought out of the darkness after 3 years and given proper burials. Clara stood at every funeral. Silas stood beside her. Tommy stood beside him. Lucy left flowers on every grave and told Penny the name of each man because someone should remember them. And Penny had a very good memory. Virgil Whitmore was arrested at the border. He had been trying to flee to California. He did not fight. He did not beg. He looked at the deputies and said, "Tell Clara I'm sorry." The deputies told her. Clara said nothing. Some apologies arrived too late to matter. Spring came to Wyoming the way it always did, slow and stubborn, and then all at once. The snow melted. The creeks ran. The grass came back green and new, and the mountains shook off their white coats and stood bare and ancient against a sky that went on forever. Silas rebuilt the corral. Tommy helped. The boy did not talk much while they worked. He did not need to. They had found the rhythm that men find when they work together, the rhythm of hammers and nails and shared silence that says more than words. "Mr. Silas," Tommy said one afternoon, holding a fence post while Silas drove it. "Yeah?" "You don't have to be my daddy." "I know." "But could you be around? Like, permanent around? Not going away around?" "I am not going anywhere, Tommy." "People say that." "I know they do. So don't listen to what I say. Watch what I do. And I will be here tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. And if I ever break that, you can shoot me again." "I didn't hit you the first time." "You scared the hell out of me. That counts." Tommy drove the next nail, straight and true. He had good hands, builder's hands. "Mr. Silas?" "Yeah?" "Thanks for not being mean. Thanks for not shooting me." "You're welcome." That evening, Silas sat on the porch. Clara came out with 2 cups of coffee. She sat beside him. Boone lay at their feet. From inside, Lucy's voice, singing a song she had made up about a sheriff dog and his deputy who was a sock puppet, and together they fought crime and ate biscuits. Tommy was in the corral, brushing Bess, talking to her low and gentle. The boy talked to horses now, full conversations.
Silas had heard him tell Bess about his father once, about the hitting, about the leaving. The horse had stood still and listened, and Tommy had pressed his face into her neck and cried. And that was the last time he cried about Virgil Whitmore. Clara leaned against Silas. His arm went around her. Natural, like it had always been there. "I want to get married," Clara said. "I was going to ask. You were taking too long." "I was waiting for the right moment."
Silas Harding, I have been shot, chased through mountains, attacked by hired killers, confronted a corrupt judge, and kissed you in front of the whole town. There is no right moment. There is just now. Then now. Now? Marry me, Clara. Not because the world is dangerous and we need to stick together. Not because the children need a home. Marry me because I love you. Because your boy teaches me what courage looks like every day. Because your girl put a sock doll on my pillow, and it was the kindest thing anyone has done for me in 5 years. Because you made coffee in my kitchen, and it was the first morning I woke up and wanted to be alive. Clara set down her cup, took his face in both her hands. Yes. That's it? Just yes? What did you want? A speech? I just gave you one. And it was beautiful, but I am a woman of few words. Since when? Since right now. Yes, forever. Now drink your coffee before it gets cold. They were married in Elk Crossing on the first Sunday of May. Margaret Sutter stood for Clara. Heck stood for Silas, and only cried twice, which he considered a personal best. Tommy wore a new coat that fit. Lucy wore a white dress and carried Penny, who wore a matching ribbon. Boone sat in the front pew and did not move until the preacher said Amen, at which point he barked once, definitively, as if rendering a verdict. Deputy Purcell attended. He had been promoted to sheriff after Grady's removal. He was doing a good job. Not a great job, but an honest one. And honest was enough. After the ceremony, Silas took Clara to the porch of their cabin. Their cabin now. Not his, not hers. Theirs. The quilt on the bed was new. Clara had sewn it. Emmeline's quilt was folded carefully in a cedar chest, with the pocket watch and a letter Silas had written to his first wife, telling her he loved her and always would, but that he had found a reason to keep living, and he hoped she understood. Happy? Clara asked. I don't have a word for what I am. Try. Home. I am home. Clara kissed him. Tommy pretended not to watch from the corral. Lucy watched openly and narrated the whole thing to Penny. Boone thumped his tail on the porch. That night, after the children were asleep, Silas stood on the hillside behind the barn. 2 graves there. Emmeline, Daniel. He had planted wildflowers in the spring. They were coming up now, small and bright and stubborn. I kept my promise, he said to the stones. I came home. The wind moved through the grass. The stars were out. The cabin below him glowed with lamplight, and inside it, a woman was singing, and a boy was reading, and a girl was telling a dog about her day, and every window was a square of gold against the dark. Silas Harding walked down the hill, opened the door, stepped into the warmth and noise and beautiful mess of a life he had never expected and did not deserve, and would defend with every breath he had left. Lucy looked up from the floor where she and Boone were sharing a blanket. Penny says welcome home. Tell Penny she's right. She's always right. I know she is. He closed the door. The night settled over the cabin like a hand over a heart. And inside, where the fire burned and the dogs snored and the children slept, and a woman waited for the man she had chosen, there was no silence. There was no emptiness. There was no ghost. There was only the sound of a family, whole and imperfect and alive, learning that the hardest thing in the world is not surviving the storm. It is believing you deserve the sun that comes after.
and they believed it. Every last one of them. Even Penny.